The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, did a rare interview this week on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. Heartbreak Kid was live from NXT doing the interview, talking about the Montreal screw job, of course. Ariel said he was actually there in the building for that show and was a diehard Bret the Hitman Hart fan, so that was certainly awkward. Shawn talked about his relationship with Bret now and then, and difference between how he was back then and how he is now. His relationship with Triple H and the rest of the clique. Lots of good tidbits in this interview. Certainly not anything like that horrid interview he did with Tony Khan last week. But it was in this particular clip right here that the Heartbreak Kid was asked what he thought of the rebranding of NXT, the whole 2.0 debacle. And I'm not talking about Matt Menard and fucking Angelo Parker. Check out this clip.
I didn't like in the past year what had become of NXT. I felt I didn't like the rebrand. I didn't like the new logo. Even things like that I didn't like. And I felt like it had changed dramatically from what it was. Could I ask what you thought of the past year and all the changes as you were seeing them all? And he was less in charge. He was dealing with his health, of course, most importantly. How did you feel about all the changes of the past year?
Well, look, nothing sucks more than to have to follow in those footsteps and then have all these abrupt changes that you have to then take over. Now, I will say this, and this is from at my knowledge at the time. Like, for instance, the logo where that came at the last minute, and even from Hunter's standpoint, to the best of my understanding, it was, this is what it is. And I think that's maybe something that a lot of people, and I saw, the interview that you did with Hunter, where he said, look, I know there are a lot of things that people thought that he wouldn't have done or decisions he didn't make, but they actually were. So there were some things that were, that he did know about, but then there were others, especially as it started going and he wasn't there, that were very different and very difficult, to sort of deal with. And again, me having, stepping in from the outside, really, you can be here in Orlando, but not have any idea what's going on sort of, from a corporate standpoint in Stamford. And that's where it was really difficult for me. I stepped in and no longer was really answering to Hunter. I was answering to other people. And quite honestly, I wasn't really sure who that was because it was different people at different times. So it was very challenging. But look, I will say the one thing that in this company that you have to make sure you adjust to is change. Things can change overnight. But it was my understanding that Hunter did want to get back to the developmental. Now, I don't think we would have done it as drastically. For instance, starting out on the first shows with 75% new people, we wouldn't have put anybody out there before we were ready. So there were some things that were sort of insisted upon that we couldn't control, that I certainly couldn't control. And Hunter, because he wasn't here, had no say in the matter. So look, make no mistake about it. It was challenging and it wasn't fun, having to be that guy to try to balance both sides. You know what I mean? Putting on a 2-hour live wrestling event with people that had never done it before, it is not easy.
I still find this so hard to believe that if Triple H had never left NXT, that this was still the plan, that NXT 2.0, NXT fucking Nickelodeon splatter, slime fucking drip, right? I highly, highly doubt that this was in the plans all along. I think that they're just saving face because they don't want to admit that Triple H had NXT taken away from him because they lost in the ratings to AEW. I know they hate to admit that. I know Triple H brushes it off as, oh, they beat our developmental. But that's not true. They had Samoa Joe. They had Adam Cole, baby. They had fucking everybody and their mom was in NXT at that time. They were a full-fledged third brand indie promotion. And I just can't imagine that they decided to throw all that away, selling out takeovers, all that stuff. We're just going to piss all that away to focus back on fucking greenhorn newbie talent that doesn't know their fucking wrist lock from a fucking wristwatch. Easy for me to say, right? And just the whole paint splatter and all that shit. It's ridiculous. Why would you make that transition? It's much more believable that Vince McMahon finally put eyes on NXT and said, what the fuck is going on down there? You guys can't even beat this AEW crap? Probably didn't even know AEW's name. Just can't beat this. You know what I mean? As soon as he got eyes on NXT, as soon as they became a problem and it became something that he had to worry about, because up until then he just trusted Triple H to just do the work, right? He just, here, this is yours, you run it however you want, all hands off, and we'll get tapes sent up to us and we'll pluck talent as we need them. If we like them, we'll grab them, right? That's what the arrangement was. I guarantee you that Vince McMahon was not watching NXT on any regular basis, if at all. That all he was watching was highlights of guys that like a Bruce Pritchard wanted to put on his radar. Or that maybe Triple H was sending, here, take a look at this guy. He's doing really good. You know what I mean? There's no way that Vince McMahon was following that regular product. And it wasn't until that the ratings started to get squashed, that AEW was beating them every week, that made Vince McMahon have to pay attention to what's going on down there. That's when we heard the rumors that Bruce and Vince and was it Laurinaitis maybe too, and whoever else were going down to NXT, and that they were going to be spending a couple days there or a day there or something like that, and they were just going to be watching the talent, watching the show, watching what goes on there, and everything changed after that. Then Triple H got sick. Then Triple H was removed from office. This was going to come down as soon as Vince McMahon went to NXT and saw what was happening there. Jim Cornette talks about this. He nailed it dead on. Vince McMahon saw your Johnny Garganos and Tommaso Ciampas and was like, what the fuck is this shit? Bunch of little guys doing flippy floppies and stuff. Not that Tommaso is a flippy floppy guy or anything, but you get my point. They're not Vince McMahon's type of people is what I'm saying here. So he just scrapped everything and built it in his image, rebuilt it in his image. And then once he was out of the way, Shawn Michaels was in control of it, but he was taking orders from other people still. You know, he didn't have the full creative reins. He was the head of it, but he was taking orders from up top, and he didn't even know who he was answering to half the time. He said it was different people. I'm sure Bruce Pritchard was passing stuff down. I'm sure Laurinaitis, while he was still employed, had a say in stuff. And this was just how things were going to go. And you'll never convince me differently, because even now, Triple H taking back over, NXT has reverted back to the black and gold. Now, they still kept the font, I guess, and looks like it's probably going to be like a hybrid, right? It's going to have a lot of the developmental talent still. But Shawn Michaels even said in this interview, like, hey, I'm going to be on the lookout. Like, we'd be stupid to not bring people in, the hottest guys off the indie scenes, to bring them in. And even if it's just for a cup of coffee, just to get their feet wet and see what the WWE system is like, then go up to WWE's main roster. That's exactly what it was for guys like Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. Well, Samoa was actually hired to be a full-time NXT guy, but, he got promoted right up to the main roster anyway. So a lot of these guys, the big stars, and Nakamura, these guys were just brought in to just get acclimated to Kevin Steen. All these guys were brought in just to feel out the WWE system through NXT. That's why they were in NXT, and they're going to go back to that. And it'll be a hybrid, because they're going to have their developmental guys and stuff. But the fact that, before AEW came along, it was all Triple H. After AEW squashed him in the ratings, Vince went down there, and that was a public visit, very public visit. And then after that, everything was rebranded and changed. And then after that, Triple H was removed from that position. And then once Triple H took back power, he put the colors back on, the black and gold. And now they're open to signing top name indie talents again. You can't fucking tell me any different. Tell me I'm lying. Great interview by HBK, though. Ariel Helwani continues to knock him out of the park. Other than that Tony Khan interview, which, by the way, I feel like I was one of the first people on that one. I jumped on that right away, had that news clip out, and it was only like a day or two later after I had my clip posted that I started seeing like Ariel Helwani had come out and said that it was a frustrating interview, and then that started to make news headlines. You know, he said it was a very frustrating interview with Tony Khan. Yeah, you could see that a mile away. But Ariel's good. He's good at what he does. And this was a good interview with Shawn Michaels. And I am excited to see where NXT can go from here now that it's not Bruce Pritchard's NXT.
Oh yeah, thanks for checking out the video. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like it if you liked it. Yeah. You can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on the channel. Ooh yeah, dig it!